Hello everybody. I'm just going to pause for a little second while I quickly share this out. I will be back immediately. 2 seconds. I'm back. I'm back. Welcome in everybody. It's annoying that I can't just like find the people that I want to send this to. How we all doing? I can see people coming in now. Oh. So for anybody that does know, obviously, back on my now removed account, well, lost account, we'll just call it. Yeah, that's Bob chilling in the background. I did a mental health live where I had discussed initially, whilst Gypsy Rose Blanchard was incarcerated, about Munchausen's by proxy and the condition that it was. I did discuss Gypsy. I was once very much a supporter of her. Then after she was released from jail and I saw all the information that then came up about her, I read a FOIA in March last year. It was quite a significant one, where I saw some quite disturbing documentation about this, and it made me question absolutely everything that I once thought I knew about the murder of Claudine Dee Blanchard. I then realised that we were obviously, I was duped into believing what defence had told us because there had been a plea deal. I had believed everything, actually, even the act. I felt sorry for this, which actually turned into a young woman, but I felt sorry for her. I do apologise for that pause. It made me, it was, I've got a timer on how long to be on TikTok for, so. But yeah, like I said, so I believed the lies that we were told, believed that this was a shame, believed initially that this was a case of abuse, and the fact that the only way out of this was indeed the crime that was committed, which was the quite horrific and brutal murder of Dee Dee. Like I said, I now have seen a lot of information. This isn't about sympathising over Nick Godejohn. I am not a Nick Godejohn sympathiser. I believe that he is in the right place. Did he get a fair trial? And now after reviewing all of the information, I realise that he never. It should have been brought up the fact that he was quite severely autistic. He had quite significant learning difficulties. And this was also a case of grooming and manipulation, and almost this extortion in a way case as well. As like I said, I've seen the text messages, I've seen the emails, I've seen Facebook messages. I have deep dived into this so much so that I'm actually deeply disturbed by some of the information that I actually read about this. And I won't be sharing the videos, but I will be telling you where you can find them. What I'm going to be doing is obviously discussing this in general, and it's just to remind you that the victim in all this was actually Dee Dee. She was the one that was murdered, and unfortunately we did get fed a lot of lies to make it seem like that she wasn't a victim at all. But I think one of the things that was quite significant in regards to this case is the fact that everything in regards to this case, at every point, every twist, every turn, the person that was vilified for all of this was Aditi. And that, you know, they portrayed Gypsy as a disabled child, and she wasn't. At the time of Didi's murder, she was a month shy of her 24th birthday. Now, this was obviously almost 11 years ago now. The plea deal was, and I believe that this had to do with a political statement in regards to this. There was a run for a state senate, and everything for this, they needed another victim. And what better way to have another victim is somebody that was pictured quite prominently within a wheelchair, who had glasses, who was pictured without her teeth, who appeared to have no hair, and that she looked really skinny. She seemed to have the mind of a child. That everything about this obviously was pushing to the fact that this was a sick child, and obviously the person that got the full brunt of this, and not just the victim, of course, but the other person that got the full brunt of this was, of course, Nick. Now, Nicholas Godejohn, he was 26 at the time of the murder. He did know to a degree what he was doing, but we now know that there was numerous times that he had spoken to other people and had asked Gypsy repeatedly if there was any way that they could do this without somebody being murdered. Murder is a serious offence. He was incredibly manipulated to a degree that he thought that the only way this person would love him was by him going along with what she had done. I have seen the back and forth videos. I'm not going to subject you to all these back and forth videos. You do not need to see this. If you want to see it, there has been a few people that has obviously been sharing the video. And there is Aubrey, who is awaiting a FOIA for more of the Facebook content that we haven't seen, which isn't obviously in the FOIA records that has been released at the moment. There is Ashley Baby. They're both on here, who has shared this, a lot of this. And then we also have Becca Scoops, who has been trashed actually on TikTok from the Gypsy Rose Blanchard's stans that have believed everything that has actually been said as well. Now, I'd just like to remind you, so for anybody that is coming in, and thank you for joining, I was once a supporter of Gypsy. I believed the act. I believed what the defence had peddled. I believed what the media storm surrounding this case was. I thought that she was a purely innocent bystander until, like I said, I really deep dived into this case and read the FOIA that I had read back in March last year, and I was utterly appalled. I was so angry at myself at the fact that I was able to be duped and manipulated as such. I thought I was cleverer than that. I was smarter than being able to be duped into something like this. And like I said, I did a full live on this and believed that she should have been free. So yes, I was a supporter, but I'm not anymore. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. Now, like I said, you're not going to see pictures. We're going to leave the pictures up with what is obviously displaying here, because this is what the media had obviously pushed to us. This is what the defence had pushed to us. Everything that I'm sure, everything that's here is what we were all led to believe. Now, before Gypsy met Nick, and actually when Gypsy was a child, she obviously had quite a small head. And this is obviously what we now know is a common ailment from the microdeletion disorder that she does have. Microdeletion was not actually known to be what that was back when Gypsy was born. She was quite sickly. She would get sick a lot. She was quite poorly. But Dee Dee doted on Gypsy. Dee Dee did absolutely everything for her. She entered her into beauty pageants. She entered her into talent contests. She had taken her to school initially. Everything for Gypsy was, everything that Dee Dee did was for Gypsy, because Gypsy was the apple of her eye, and all she wanted to do was care and protect for this little girl. Now, there is alleged rumours, and this comes from Gypsy's book. So a lot of what we know about Dee Dee's past is alleged. And I'm going to continue to say that is alleged. It was alleged that Dee Dee had attempted to trap Rod Blanchard into marriage by getting pregnant. She was desperate to get pregnant. She was desperate to have a baby, and she got pregnant. Allegedly, Dee Dee was she was abused as a child sexually. Again, alleged. There is no corroborating evidence to say this, of course. And in her mind, when she had a little girl, all she wanted to do was protect, love, and care for this little girl that she had, and she did everything. She spent all the money. She got herself in a lot of debt. However, as Gypsy had continued to grow up, Gypsy became really quite sick and was actually back and forth to the doctors quite a lot, and there was no significant ailment of what was actually going on. There had been an accident on a motorbike or a car, because there's obviously confusion as to what this was, but there'd been an accident when Gypsy was quite young, and during surgery for this accident, Gypsy had a seizure, and doctors believed at that time that this caused her to be permanently paralysed. They were not going to know that it was a temporary paralysis. Dee Dee obviously got a lot of attention, especially the fact that she had a sickly child. I have read a case where chemotherapy has been used as a pain treatment, as well as radiation therapy has been used as a pain treatment, because it is more localized to where the pain actually is. And there was a point that during when Gypsy was in a lot of pain, that she did have a small amount of chemotherapy, which did make her lose her hair. We know this as fact. The medical records are there. Into the Weeds podcast, Straight Out of Compton, Becca Scoops, Aubrey and Ashley Baby, just to name but a few, have all shared this. Into the Weeds podcast and Becca Scoops have shared the more lengthy parts of the FOIA requests on YouTube. You will find them. They are all here as well, so they can be found in both platforms. But the significant amount of videos and medical records, we now know that they are. We now know the lies. We're now seeing. We're beginning to, at this point, to see through the lies. Now, we know as well about Hurricane. Good evening, Tara, and thank you for being here. We all know now, thanks to the everything, to be fair, Gypsy at this point, so she was in a wheelchair, okay, and but Gypsy wasn't thriving. Gypsy had difficulty swallowing. And if you watch Gypsy, or if you have watched Gypsy since she has been released from jail, when you see her trying to eat, she sits forward like this. Now, immediately when I sat forward like this, you hear how my vocal cords are restricted. So imagine me sitting trying to have a drink. So I'm just going to do this as an example. Try to swallow when you are like that. It is near impossible. It is so difficult to get anything down because you're not opening this properly. You're not sitting normally, so you're hunched over like this. You can hear my voice goes. And this is all tightened up really quite considerably, and trying to swallow when you're like that is, thank you so much for the follow, when you're like that is incredibly difficult. And I've seen this, I had saw this before, and I was really confused because I did watch season 1 of Life After Lockup, which I believe is now Lives After Lockup. But again, that's my personal opinion, and some people, I do understand why some people will still disagree with what I'm saying, even though I'm just basing this off facts, and I'm not showing you the videos because there's no point. The videos are already out there. I will quite happily keep telling you to go to Becca Scoops, Into the Weeds podcast, Straight Out of Content, Ashley Baby and Aubrey for all the additional information, because they are the ones that are submitting these FOIAs, and these are the ones that are obviously releasing them for us. It was actually Straight Out of Content whose FOIA that I'd read back in March last year, and that was full, that was all, had all the documents. So this is where I'm taking this information from, because the FOIA request is evidence that is secured by prosecution, which is put into a discovery. This discovery is full fact evidentiary basis to get a conviction of any type of crime that is out there. It is a lot easier to get a FOIA, and the FOIA is Freedom of Information Act in America. Some you can get for free, some you have to pay a significant amount of money for. Now, for Into the Weeds podcast, for the videos that they have and that are releasing and that are painstaking going through to make sure that what they are sharing is very much safe for work, because a lot of the videos and evidence that is out there is in fact not safe for work at all. So they are the one that are seeing this, and I understand why they are not wanting to show a lot of information, because there's no need for it to be shared out there, especially the fact that obviously the only time that Dee Dee had taken any type of devices from Gypsy was after Gypsy had turned 15. She had taken suggestive pictures. Actually, it was full nudity pictures. Remember, she was 15. This was shared on the internet. This was also shared to people. Now, so remember this, she was 15. Dee Dee, as much as she was defrauding and scamming people for Gypsy's sake, she didn't want Gypsy's reputation to be ruined. She wanted to protect her little girl as much as possible, and if the alleged sexual abuse that Dee Dee went through did actually happen, you can imagine she'll be even more overprotective in regards to that. She believed that even though she was homeschooling Gypsy, because Gypsy was struggling at school, that Gypsy was going to be an artist, and that's what she was going to grow up to be. They were also quite significantly involved in the church as well. Now, this was 15-year-old full unclothed pictures that were released out there. I think any mother, grandmother, auntie, anybody, if they saw a child that age taking these pictures and sending them out, devices would get removed. It's a punishment. It's like being grounded. It is a punishment. So that was when she had removed this. During this time, it is believed that Gypsy knew that she was walking. She did have some other ones. Obviously, I haven't discussed about the feeding tube, but I was discussing the swallowing there. So Dee Dee had an accident, and Gypsy was getting cared for from her grandparents. And Gypsy wasn't thriving at all. She was really struggling. She had lost a lot of weight. She was unhealthily skinny. And that was even when the care of her grandparents. She wasn't putting on weight when she was in the care of her grandparents either. So a decision was made for Gypsy to go to hospital. Well, obviously get a doctor's check initially. to find out what was going on. And Gypsy was malnourished. But she was malnourished, and I did that. I give you an example. I put my head forward like this, my voice changes. Me trying to swallow like this is damn near impossible. But this is how a lot of times when you even see Gypsy, she's very much like this, and everything about her vocals and the way she can the swallow will automatically change because you're restricting a lot of things that are down here. So trying to swallow on top of that, like I said, is damn near impossible. 1 month she was in hospital for. Now, why would anybody say that this was Dee Dee that was forcing this? It wasn't. The doctors saw something wrong. Even in hospital, she wasn't thriving. She was having difficulty eating. She claimed in her book because she thought that the food was bland, which is false. And we now know this because after a month, it was decided Gypsy needed a feeding tube in order to gain weight, to get the much needed nutrition from something, because she had severe difficulty from swallowing. Now, these are tests. Every time that somebody eats, when you're having those tests to see if a feeding tube will go in. And remember, the feeding tube was temporary because a part of the during the duration of this, at one point the feeding tube was actually removed. There's 2 operations. But like I said, Gypsy had things swallowing. Now, people will say that she's got salivary glands removed. A doctor will not remove a saliva glands if it wasn't necessary. And again, there's no actual proof that that had happened. This was what I now know is to be another lie from Gypsy. She had... she did have exploratory tests. Now remember, Gypsy was a very, very, very sickly child. She was sickly growing up. She had an operation which did cause a seizure. She would have automatically been put on seizure medication because of this, just to prevent any further seizures from happening. If anybody has seen the very well stocked up medical cupboard, this wasn't just Gypsy's medications that was there. These were also Dee Dee's, and a lot of this was over the counter medication. It was bought, and a lot of them were actually for there was eye drops, there was a lot of skin medication, so there was a bath wash. I only know it because I've used it personally myself. There was shower washes, but because of the way that pictures were taken and because of the cleverness of defense, which you can understand why they did this as well, because they're going to get their client off from whatever it is, they obscured a lot of the pictures that were being shown to make it look like that all of that medication was Gypsy's. Remember as well, in America, it's very, very different to the medical procedures that go on here. They were obviously on Medicaid, or Medicare. So there was a lot of things that were done through, obviously paid for. Now, the doctors would have had to have submitted forms and requests for every single piece of exploratory, every type of medication that Gypsy was prescribed. Tests would have been done to ensure that the medication that she was on was correct. And no lawyer will take on Gypsy since she's been released to sue medical professionals for negligence. That's obviously bill tampering, that's insurance fraud. That's a significant amount, and it'll be multiple doctors. Just because medical records have been allegedly lost because of Hurricane Katrina, doesn't mean medical records cannot actually be found. And any test that you have, they can lose they can lose some, but they can't lose it all. Tests have to be done in order for the Medicaid to be given in the first place to okay this, because they're not just going to give these away willy-nilly, because like I said, that's bill tampering, that's insurance fraud, that's actually bill fraud as well, and that's medical negligence, that's abuse of medicine, that's an abuse of power of medicine as well. Like there's a significant amount of charges that can be brought against a doctor should what they have been given to this person have been incredibly falsified as well. And if it was the fact that a lot of these illnesses were falsified, like what was claimed, it would have been picked up on during the duration of Gypsy's upbringing. They didn't actually know what was wrong with Gypsy. They just knew that she was very sickly, she wouldn't thrive, she was struggling, but she was able to eat on our feeding tube. In fact, one of the videos that she sent to Nick was the fact that she loved jambalaya. It was one of her favourite foods that she had, and she wanted to make him jambalaya. When I seen a crime scene pictures and when I saw what was in a kitchen, this was enough food for 2 people, if not more. It was clear very much with the dishes, etc., that because there was clean dishes on the rack. This was 2 people eating food. This wasn't just one. Did Dee Dee defraud? Yes. Was she loving the attention? Yes. She got a free house. She got a van. She got a car. Everything. But remember as well, everything that she was getting was specifically for Gypsy. What Dee Dee had was malingering. And malingering is something to get something for somebody else. You can get it for yourself if you fake your own illnesses as well, because you are a bit enjoying the attention, but it's not Munchausen's by proxy. It's not actually Munchausen's at all, and that's not even the correct term anymore. It's fictitious disorder. So there was no proof that Dee Dee had this. But again, when I remember going through her Facebook and being quite surprised, well, because obviously Facebook was open, and being quite surprised about the fact that Dee Dee was a picture taker and Gypsy was her whole world. She loved her, adored her. And she would take pictures of Gypsy when she was in hospital. Before Gypsy would get an operation, she would take a picture of this. The documented proof of any surgeries, as well as obviously the medical records that have been released, thanks to the FOIA, is actually on Dee Dee's own Facebook. If she had any more than what she had, these pictures would have been snap happy and it would have been shared all over. You're not, if somebody is malingering and believes that they are going to get a specific amount of sympathy, but the sympathy is pushed onto the child, so onto the other person. To get something for Gypsy, she would have taken more pictures of Gypsy in hospital, more photos of Gypsy getting operations, but that was never documented. And the book then throws into a lot of questions. I call it Gypsy's Book of Lies. Some people call it Gypsy's Book of Bollocks. I don't actually know the name of the actual book. I've read it because thanks to one of the Facebook groups who put it up for free, I was able to read it for free. And there's a lot of fabrication, and you can see this because there's a lot of contradictory things that are going on in the book. Now, she did the audio recording of said book as well. So she would have known what was in the book. And if she thought there was something wrong in the book, it would, the time to have actually said it was when she was doing the audio recording of the book. But she never. And when it was asked in regards to the fact, well, why did you say this and why did you say that? She will always bring up about the fact that it was a ghostwriter that read the book and she never read it. Which, therein lies one of the lies. Now, during the time of where after they had been put into a fully paid for house, and when they got 2 different vehicles because one broke down and they got another one, they got a jacuzzi bath. All of this was paid for. Of course, Dee Dee was seeing something from the malingering as well, but not to the degree of it being Munchausen or fictitious disorder, which we know this now. Also, in regards to everything, Gypsy absolutely adored. They paid for Disney trips. They paid for Cape Cod trip. They paid for trips to go and visit, go and meet celebrities for this, for this, for this. Like, Gypsy had a lifestyle of somebody that was very rich when she was growing up, because this was all part of the scam or the fraud, however you wish to see it. This wasn't abuse or neglect. Like I'd already said, there was a time that Gypsy's devices were taken off her and she wasn't allowed to go onto the internet, but that was punishment for her sending full frontal pictures in a suggestive manner out there on the internet at the age of 15. And all Dee Dee was doing was not only trying to protect her reputation, but also she was trying to punish. And instead of being praised for punishing a child that has just sent pictures like that out there, because once it's on the internet, it never goes away. Instead, she was vilified even more because there was proof that she had punished Gypsy because of Gypsy's own doing. Now, when Gypsy was 18, she started a relationship with Dan, and she had enough. She was just happy about getting all the freebies that she was getting. And maybe there was some suspicions that had arisen. Maybe there was some questions that had been asked as well in regards to specifics. And also, Gypsy could walk, but she was hiding it from people. She couldn't tell the community. She told the community she would be hated. If she told the church, oh good grief, she would be hated. The amount of money that would have to be paid back would have been a significant amount of money to be paid back, especially with all the trips. But she met Dan on the internet and started a sexual relationship with him. She introduced Dan to BDSM and did seem to like a lot of kinks. Now there's a lot of role play involved in BDSM. There's a lot of dressing up. We know that Gypsy enjoyed dressing up. Well, the sci-fi conventions that she used to get to go to, that she went to, where she loved her wigs. Now, she'd already had the experience of losing her hair once, so what better way to constantly wear a wig by to keep shaving off her hair? We know as an adult who has been released from jail that Gypsy still loves wearing a wig, adores wearing a wig. And that is probably the real reason why she had shaved all her hair off herself as an adult, because she loves a wig. She enjoys being different people. She loves a cosplay. She loves a role play. She loves being someone else. So keeping her hair short, I mean, I wear wigs and you've seen the length of my hair? You know how much a nightmare it is when I'm trying to put my hair up into a wig. When my hair was shorter till about here, putting a wig on it was so much easier, because I don't have as much to tie back or pin back. I could imagine if this was all shaved off. Putting a wig on would be an absolute breeze, and I could wear wigs all the time. That is what Gypsy does. She wears wigs all the time. She let her hair grow out when she was in prison because she didn't have the access to the wigs. She had no reason for her hair to be super short. Do you believe that maybe initially at the start of it, because she was getting a little bit of sympathy, that in order to get a couple of bits and pieces, that maybe this was part of the ongoing fraud and scam? Yes. But the older Gypsy got, the more she loved the wig. And the more she loved her different personas like Ruby, Trixie, Demona, to name but a few. When Gypsy was 19, she was honestly telling people that she was underage. And this was one of the times, because she ran away from home 4 times, just to say, because she had access to laptops, to multiple mobile phones. There was a landline. There is multiple videos of Gypsy being out and about on her own, and she is clearly walking around. She had access to a bus pass. She had access to money. She ran away 4 times. One of the times that she did run away, Dan's roommate had seen Gypsy and Dan in bed together and thought that Gypsy was underage. And to try to protect his roommate and his friend, he phoned Dee Dee, and Dee Dee turned up to pick up her 19-year-old child. But allegedly, according to Gypsy, Dee Dee tracked her down and pulled her back and screamed at Dan that she was underage. But we now know that's not true, thanks to the FOIA. Later on that year, when Gypsy was 19, Gypsy picked up a BB gun, which she thought was a real gun. And she'd also picked up a dagger. And there's proof of this in the pictures as well. Gypsy, hi Louise, Gypsy chased her mother through their little bungalow house and, in her own words, shot her mum, well, unloaded the clip of pellets, believing it was real because she was going to kill her mum. Dee Dee fled from Gypsy as fast as she could and was actually bruised and injured because of this. And then Dee Dee needed some medical treatment. They couldn't say that Gypsy was the one that chased her with a dagger and a pellet gun in order to injure her mother and because she wanted to kill her. I mean, initially in the one of the, I think it was prison confessions, that Gypsy says she shot her mum 3 times with a pellet gun. And that 2 hit the wall. There is pictures there where there's pellet gun things, but it's not just in one place. It's not just in the kitchen. It's not just oh, I'm just going to pick this up and shoot you. No. Literally chased her mum through that and shooting the pellet gun, believing this was a real gun. So Dee Dee and Gypsy made up a story that in the car park of Walmart that Dee Dee was robbed. And that's how she got the injuries that again, if you want to see that, Into the Weeds podcast and Becca Scoops, I both have it on their YouTube. They were pretty obvious. Like, I would probably be absolutely petrified if a child that I was raising had decided to unload a pellet gun onto me and believed that I was going to, they wanted to kill me and chase me with a dagger. So, this was quite a significant, actually, injury. And that's actually a domestic violence situation as well. So it's a form of domestic abuse. It's parental domestic abuse, whereas it's a child onto a parent. And that's horrible. So you could probably imagine by this point that Dee Dee's probably a bit scared of her daughter at this point. But still wants to protect her. Gypsy is still sick at this point. Dee Dee doesn't know what's wrong with her daughter and has had an abundance of tests to try and finally get to the bottom and find out what is wrong with Gypsy. Because Dee Dee was flummoxed. But she knew she was sick. It was proven that she was sick. And took a significant toll on Dee Dee's well-being and mental health. Not only is she absolutely petrified of her daughter, she has also got suffering from bipolar. She has where she ends up going on long stints of going into bed, taking herself off to bed and not moving. Who do you think was looking after Gypsy at that point? Correct, if you said that was Gypsy. Gypsy was even looking after her mum. Because Gypsy knew how to do things. But then, of course, the escalation of the trips had obviously started after she had turned 19. After she had injured her mum, after she had put the fear of God into her mum and chased her mum through their little bungalow with a pellet gun and a dagger, but saying that she wanted to kill her mum, and all because Dan's roommate that Gypsy was seeing believed that Gypsy was underage and called Dee Dee to pick her up. That is why she lost her temper. That is why she chased her mum. That is why she shot her with a pellet gun. And if that gun was real, Dee Dee would have been dead. Fast forward about a year. She meets Nicholas Godejohn. Oh, just to obviously add as well, Dan had actually released a statement to say that there was a point that Gypsy had actually asked Dan to kill her mum, and he said no. Because Dan wasn't as easily manipulated. Now, fast forward to a year, and Gypsy's 20. And she meets Nicholas Godejohn, 2 years her senior, on a Christian dating website. She told Nicholas that she was 17 at the time of meeting. And she was loving the attention. She stalked on social media Nick's exes and found out that he had significant learning difficulties. He was on disability. There was no way for him to work. He was cared for full-time by his mum. He had a sibling, and she found her target. And for 3 years, and I've seen too many of these videos, her and Nicholas had sent video messages to each other. And I would say that Gypsies are a lot more sexually graphic than what Nicholas's are. There's a lot of times you can't actually hear what Nick is saying because he mumbles quite a lot. You can also see, I mean, I do it here. I find it difficult to keep looking at myself, so I scan off to the sides, or sometimes I've got a script if I'm on live so I can look down at this. But this case I know too well, I don't need the script. Which is annoying because I believed the lies and I was once a supporter. She manipulated and groomed Nick, a severely autistic man. Anybody that knows anybody that has autism knows how very much easily manipulated we are. Even if we believe that we have our full wits about us and we know what's going on and what's going on right in the world, we are manipulated into the fact that because we so desperately want to fit in, we will mask what was really going on, and we will mirror. We'll mirror behaviours of other people to be seen as socially normal, to fit in with society, for nobody to realise there's anything wrong with us at all. Yes, I'm autistic. We are easily manipulated to the point that it can actually turn into harassment and bullying, but we don't realise that that's what's happening. We just get really upset and frustrated that we feel like that we are letting somebody down, and we think that they are bullying or harassment to us is them being upset at us because we overthink everything, because we do not hit the normal social cues as a regular person, as a neurotypical. Our brains aren't formed in that way. And Nick's got a far more serious form of autism than what I do. I can hold conversations. It can be difficult, but I can. But I am really easily manipulated. I've been manipulated in relationships my whole entire life. I was manipulated by family my whole entire life until I realised it was wrong and I walked away. I've been manipulated by multiple friendships, and I believed everything that they told me blindly. And then I found out the truth of some and realised that some people that I had in my life were really bad eggs and they had to be cut out, and they were. They were extradited from my life and I never spoken to them again. In fact, only a couple of years ago, I was getting harassed by somebody who was using my... I do crafting as well. I have a craft page on here too. Who was using my crafts against me. And because before that she had seen how easily it was for somebody to use me doing cake decorating against me, to the point that I was used to make every single person's birthday cake. Never even got to try the birthday cakes myself. Totally grateful to Chris's sister for letting me try the cakes that I made for Chris's 3-year-old nephew. But that was a different circumstance. That I appreciate the fact that this was if I could do it, could I do it? Obviously I wouldn't be doing it all the time like that, because it does take a significant toll. I do get exhausted really quickly because it's difficult for me to maintain. However, I'm obviously discussing autism, so I'm just going to continue with what I was saying. Now, I was used to make cakes for everybody, to the point that making cakes for people was no longer fun, and I stopped. I was asked if I could make cakes and I started to say, well, it's going to be X amount of money, what do you still want to go ahead? I even started charging for cupcakes as soon as the change of me then charging for what it was, for my time, for the ingredients, for everything, and for the level of work that I would actually put into bakes that I had made. I'm not a professional baker, I was a professional chef. So I learned as I was going, and my makes get better and better every time, and it's not a blow smoke up my own arse, it's true. But I never realised that I was getting manipulated into and being used to make free cakes all the time, until I suddenly went, I'm actually really skint, I can't afford to make this, and yet another cake again. I'm going to ask her for some money. And it never even covered the ingredients. In general, it covered a fraction of it. So, and then we got fast forward to the crafts, and I was getting manipulated for the crafts. I wasn't charging her for the proper amount of money that I was supposed to be doing, but I believed that I would lose a friendship, and I thought this was a really good friendship. So I allowed myself to get manipulated for this. I tried to desperately to cling on to the friendship that I had, and never realised that I was getting bullied as a grown-ass adult. And it was actually somebody else that noticed it, who had actually banned this person from a social club that I'd only recently, that I wasn't even a member of at that point. I'm no longer a member, but I can easily get signed back up. But I'd went to a course before my membership had obviously been activated, because I just paid for it, but I wasn't a full member at that point. I went to a course to learn how to use the defibrillator, and I was asked to stay back from the manager, and I thought I'd done something wrong. Of course, I'm like all in my head, and it was when she would just literally went, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" And she was like, "Are you still in contact with her?" As in the person that was manipulating me. I was like, "No, why?" She was like, "Good, because she's got a lifetime ban from here. She is not allowed in here. We do not accept bullies. And what was happening to you was bullying." I said it was harassment. She said it was bullying. And now I know why I was so easily manipulated, why I so clung so hard onto a friendship, and why I gave this person chance after chance after chance. Because in our minds, when we're getting manipulated in that way, it is almost a form of grooming. And you are gaslit into believing that everything that they are saying that you've done wrong, your feelings are no longer justified or anything like that, which is exactly what Gypsy did to Nick, but just in an elevated way. Again, like I said, I have watched and seen these videos. Am I a Nick sympathiser? No. Do I believe that he got groomed into this? Yes. Do I think if he got out and he met somebody he fell head over heels on, could he get manipulated in doing this again? Yes, so I do believe he's in the right place. Although he never got a fair trial, but I do believe he's in the right place. The person that I think is in the wrong place is a person that's walking free. This is why I'm doing this discussion. And remembering that to remind everybody that Dee Dee was malingering and she was defrauding and scamming people. That does not mean they should be killed. Ever. It does not justify murder. Defrauding and scamming and being malingering does not justify murder at all. This also takes it a little bit back to the BDSM stuff. Now, obviously, we know that Nick had a bit of a kink, and his was a little bit of the role-playing stuff. Finding Gypsy was his perfect woman. So, do I think that... And there's the... She never just said it once in videos where she would give up her 13-year-old V card to his. She did it twice. She also knew this was wrong because she said that she had wanted to talk about how their life was different. She also admitted to Nick in the videos that she could walk and she was fine. And that she'd been lying to the community. She was lying to her mother. It took her longer. At first, she said it's because I didn't want my mum not to love me anymore. But then she admits too, she didn't want the community to hate her, because the community would hate her if she admitted to being able to walk, as would the community, and she would probably get kicked out of the church community. Because allegedly she held that in high regard. Now, I think the person that actually heard that in probably much higher regard was Dee Dee. And like I said, when she was 15-year-old, when pictures that Gypsy herself took and shared, Dee Dee was protecting her by giving her a little bit of punishment by removing the device from Gypsy's use, because that is a normal, average, standard punishment on a child that has done something wrong. You take so you as a grown-ass adult, if you have a child who's been a wee bastard, and if they've been misusing their phone, what's an easy punishment? Take their phone away from them. And a kid likes to be a gamer, what's another easy punishment? Taking their gaming device away from them. It was a punishment, a normal, everyday adult punishment against somebody who's been doing something wrong. But this wasn't good enough for Gypsy. No. That was then escalated. Gypsy knew she had got Nick exactly where she wanted him, because she would put on the fake crying of the crocodile tears. Gypsy can cry. She's not had her tear ducts removed. You need tear ducts in general because, you know, we always have water around our eyes. She never had her tear duct removed. They wouldn't have stopped her from being able to blink, to cry, to see. To suggest as such is absolutely nonsense. Maybe a slight operation on her. Say as well, we clearly know that Gypsy's still got a squint. When I goes shopping while the other eye's looking at you. Her glasses that she wore in that picture, for example, corrected that. The microdeletion disorder that actually Gypsy has does actually cause a squint eye. It causes stunted growth. It causes nutritional problems where you have difficulty for gaining weight, and you can lose weight in a quick succession. It also can cause seizures. It can cause respiratory issues, which can be grown out of. Asthma can actually get grown out of if it's detected that it's young. Sometimes your lungs can recover enough so you don't, or you'll recover, and windpipes recover enough so you don't actually need to use CPAP machines, etc. anymore. You know, all the stuff that Gypsy had issues with. And Gypsy's got a very small head. That's a very common for somebody with microdeletion. Very, very, very common. Also, somebody with microdeletion, they are very highly sexual, incredibly so. They're very much incredibly sexually charged, and a lot of their time in life will be surrounded by sex. That's what it was with Dan. And when she is dressing up in her Demona outfit or her Ruby outfit, which is in the bathroom, and she's flaunting herself, and we know that she likes to use her electric toothbrush on her downstairs mouth, and not for her upstairs mouth. to give herself pleasure. We know all this. We know all this because of the text messages, the Facebook messages, between Nick and Gypsy. The master-slave role is a very stereotypical BDSM thing, but in actual fact, the real person that has a dominance and control in relationship to that is actually submissive, which anybody that has read anything will know that. That's 50 Shades of Grey, which Gypsy loves. Even though it looks, in my personal opinion, it looks like it was written by a child, a high school child, but that's personal opinion. Gypsy got whatever she wanted. She got whatever she wanted, but she also did it through stealing. Gypsy has a video that actually tried to taught Nick on how to steal. Nick had never once been in trouble with the police until he met Gypsy. He was in trouble with the police because he was caught masturbating in a McDonald's. I don't know what brought that on. Is that wrong? Yes. Maybe he should have got a bit of harsher punishment, but given the fact that he has quite a significant learning difficulty and he is quite severely autistic, it was called Asperger's at the time before they put everything into autism spectrum disorder. It's quite significant. He's quite significantly on the spectrum. You can see that when he's talking, when he's trying to remember things. He remembers things from a long time ago as well. You know, he remembers these things. But Gypsy manipulates Nick during these, and she lies. She does what she does best. She lies. Gypsy Rose Blanchard, as I like to call her. But she's got the sympathy of the community because they see her as a poorly ailing child who may die. Because that was part of the scam. And remember, malingering is what Dee Dee had. She had diabetes. She had bipolar. She never had Munchausen's by proxy or fictitious disorder as it's known to now. No. And how do we know this? Because the proof is there. She was never formally diagnosed. In fact, the specialist doctor that was used in the trial of Nick's trial, I'd like to add, that was talking about that, had never actually went through the full case of medical records. Had never read everything. It was a guesswork diagnosis, not an actual official diagnosis. And that's what defence picked on. That's what defence used. That's what the newspapers wanted us to hear. That's what all the media outlets wanted us to hear. They had a living, breathing victim. They had a living, breathing victim in Gypsy, and they had the demon in Nick. They never victim, but all these videos were suppressed on the next trial. On the night of on the lead up to the murder of Dee Dee, which Gypsy paid for Nick to travel there. Gypsy paid for the hotel. Gypsy paid for absolutely everything. What better way to assert control than to be financial controlling as well? Nick didn't want to do it. Nick was messaging her friends and suggested what Gypsy was wanting him to do, and then had said, oh, actually, it's okay, and I don't think it will happen because Gypsy said that she's just going to run away instead. My belief is the fact that, given the fact that how highly sexually charged she was, the more she spoke about it, it probably got her off. She was excited. She was pumped up. She was charged for it. So her videos become much more sexual on the lead up to this as well. The messages between the pair of them become so much more sexual, and it's very, very, very sexual on her side. It's incredibly sexually charged. There's no way you can see that wasn't Nick, that was her. She was very much like, it's this, I'm so excited. Oh, it's only 2 months ago, I'm so excited. And it was a constant how excited she was. She recorded hundreds of videos in that house. She walked around outside her house, which you knew it was quiet outside, making videos to Nick. She would do videos to Nick where, well, it was to use her home videos. So there was a home video in Cape Cod where Gypsy was talking about eating and the fact that she was in a pub and she was old enough to drink. Suggests to me she probably did have a wee tipple then and coming out of jail and saying, oh, I've never drunk before. It was an actual load of bullshit as well. But then the day of, the hours before, Gypsy was in a bath. And I've seen these text messages before he arrived. 3 times she says to Nick that she is excited. She was shaving her lady garden. And quite probably she was using the electric toothbrush in her downstairs mouth. Because she was that excited. This surpassed your usual BDSM kink. This turned into a full-on sexually charged kink in Gypsy's mind. And she wasn't going to stick around with Nick. No. She had this set up. She was going to make sure that Nick took the full fall for it. By things that she had been doing, things she'd been saying, things she'd been telling her friends, everything about this. She was going to make sure that Nick took the fall for this. She was going to leave Nick at the hotel. Act like they were together and leave them at the hotel. Why else would she have put on the thing, the bitch is dead on the Facebook, and that Gypsy was kidnapped and raped? Nick never raped Gypsy. Gypsy was in a highly sexualized state and had sex with Nick. She got off. He never. He couldn't complete. He had said that consistently as well. And the fact that his story never wavers and never changes. Yet Gypsy's does. Who do you think I'm more inclined to believe? The one who changes their story every 5 seconds? Or the one whose story is completely consistent? The story I choose to believe is a consistent story. Especially that with somebody that has learning difficulties and is severely autistic. I will quite happily believe that. Why people think that Gypsy is innocent and why they misremember what has gone on. People misremember that Gypsy never went to trial. Gypsy had a plea deal. Like I said to the start of this plea deal was given to Gypsy, I believe, in error, but there was also a political motive on it with the DA, the state senate, etc. It was coming up for those voting times. They needed another victim. And what better than the victim that was presented before us? What better than the victim that was presented here instead of it being the victim that is back there, standing behind her? They needed more than one villain. And they villainized Dee Dee. And they villainized Nick. Again, I'm telling you, I am not a Nick sympathizer. He deserves to be in jail. He is there in the right place. Nick had got life without the possibility of parole. He deserves to be locked up. Maybe he does deserve to get a little bit of help. Psychiatric, mental health. I know that you don't really get much of that in jail. Maybe he needs that as well. Maybe he should have spent the rest of his life in a psychiatric hospital on hold. But he doesn't deserve to get out of jail. Dee Dee was also almost decapitated. The pictures are horrific, they're gruesome. If you want to go and look for them, go and look for them. But I would advise you not to. Unless you've got really quite a strong stomach. Because as soon as you see these pictures, the pictures will stay in your mind forever. I can literally close my eyes and remember every single picture that was actually through there. Actually, I can look at a picture of Dee Dee and I can actually see her in the way that I saw her. As opposed to how she is in that picture. It's jarring, it's gruesome, it's horrible. It is actually pretty horrific. there's only a few crime scene pictures that I've seen that actually really sticks in my mind, and I can literally go, well, no, I don't want to see that again. But the pictures are there. The pictures are out there. If you want to see it, do it. But be warned, they're grim. Really pretty gruesome. And I would advise against it if you don't have the strong stomach, because it will make you feel a bit ill. You want to see the videos that are getting released, because there's still more videos to come out as well. There's still more of the FOIA to be released. Into the Weeds podcast on YouTube can only put out so much. The same with Becca Scoops as well. You only put so many videos out at the one time, and you can only discuss so much on the live. Into the Weeds had one of her lives taken down, which she had reposted afterwards, because she does all live recordings, so you can't actually see them. I do find their commentary afterwards quite interesting as well, because it gives their thoughts on it. This is not, these videos are not to get Nick out of jail. No, we're not Nick sympathisers. He still committed a crime, and he is doing his time. We are sharing this because since being out of jail, Gypsy has had 2 seasons on Lifetime of her Lives After Lockup. She has released a book. She has been on book tours. She sees herself as an influencer. She tries to be a mummy influencer. She's trying that again, actually. She's tried to be a trauma influencer. She is trying to do everything, which actually includes still continuing to villainize her mum. This is also to finally put it out there that Dee Dee was a victim. This is, you know, Gypsy Rose Blanchard does videos that are aimed at younger people. And the age range of those that are watching Gypsy are very easily manipulated and influenced. Very much so. She let her have her social media, but don't turn her into a celebrity. We should never celebrate criminals, especially ones that were formally charged with second-degree murder. The plea deal was a mistake. She should never have got out in 8.5 years. She was given a sentence for 10. She got out in 8.5. If I knew half of what I knew now and what I did, if I knew half of this when she was in jail, I would never have done the live that I did on her. It would have been very much a to-the-point live like what I'm talking about just now. I would never have been manipulated into believing what the defence says, what the act had said, what are Gypsy's confession, prison confessions, all the rest of it. I would never have believed any of that. I didn't cover true crime like what I did back when this was all happening. I only loosely, I wasn't really covering, apart from doing the live on Gypsy when she was incarcerated. I didn't really focus too much on the rest of it. What I was actually focusing on was, obviously, because it was restricting to the mental health aspect of it on that live, was Munchausen's by proxy, which we were led to believe that that's what it was. And it wasn't. It wasn't at all. There is no proof of evidence at all that says that Dee Dee was ever diagnosed with Munchausen's by proxy. However, with the evidence that is coming out with all these different FOIAs, there is proof, evidential proof, that Claudine Dee Dee Blanchard was malingering. And she did everything to not only protect her little girl, but to also give her every single thing that she wanted in her life. All Gypsy has done since she was a child was scammed, manipulated and defrauded people. Yes, she's learned how to defraud and scam from Dee Dee, but there's proof out there that the proof out there as in from Gypsy's own words in videos. that she could walk longer than what she did, and she lied to medical staff. She lied to Dee Dee. There's also proof through Dan, etc., with their statements that Gypsy had asked him to kill her mum 4 years prior to her death, which was a year before she met Nick. There is proof out there that all the procedures that Gypsy had was necessary. It is high time that people stop turning these types of people into celebrities. Casey Anthony tried to be a celebrity. You all shut her down. Casey Anthony was never charged. Casey Anthony was found not guilty. Yet, there is still people out there that are continuing to turn Gypsy into a celebrity, to make her famous. She should be infamous. She should be treated and categorised as every other infamous murderer out there, and that is just that, a murderer. Why would anybody ever ask Gypsy for advice on what to do with a relationship with her mum? But that's what Gypsy did once. Not long after she got out of jail, somebody had asked Gypsy for advice because she was having arguments with her mum. If she can do that publicly, what do you think she's saying to people privately? Her best friend, her manager, the one that took over her TikTok, etc. Brie got caught with meth. I was admitted to being an addict, which meant that after, upon her release from jail, Gypsy happily fraternised with somebody that was an addict. And it wasn't in recovery, that was an addict. She was a felony. That's a felony. To be out on parole with somebody that's an addict. It means that she's let her child, who she promised to care for and protect forever, be around somebody that's an addict. Yet people continue to support this. This is the reason why we do lives like this. This is the reason why the videos are out there. She wants to be reaching those that are between the ages of 18 and 25. And what I told you about this, between the ages of 18 and 25, not only does she ask one person to murder her mum, she managed to successfully ask another to murder her mum. She had chased her mum through the property with a dagger and a pellet gun, all because Dan's roommate believed that Gypsy was underage and had called Dee Dee to take her home. The handcuffs. There's a BDSM kink if you ever... There's a simple BDSM. That's actually simple S&M. There's no proof that she was ever chained to a bed. If there was a collar, if you watch the videos, Gypsy likes to upgrade collars. Yeah, it's a BDSM thing. Gypsy's got micro deletion. 1.21, whatever the hell it fucking well is. But it's micro deletion anyway. She looks like somebody that has micro deletion. I believe that the website I saw, I thought that was her. That was on that. It's not. It's somebody completely different. But she looks like somebody that has micro deletion. She was a sick and poorly child who her mum done absolutely everything for, and the thanks that Dee Dee got was she was murdered. Probably murdered so that both in one flamboyant fairy tale land that she had, that her and Nick were going to live in that home happily together after killing Dee Dee. And that was one of the narratives that went out there. Or made it out that Nick was purely the bad one, that she did nothing, that she never knew it happened. The story fell to pieces with the investigations. I've seen the interrogations. She gets to lie about looking all nice and comfy because she's putting herself out there to be a victim, and that whole time Nick's getting interrogated on a hard metal chair, freezing cold, not getting sandwiches and nice hot drinks and all the rest of it that she's got, not getting left alone to lie about on the floor, not getting left alone to play with cushions and stuff, not getting left there to flirt with the police officer. Again, remember what I said about Gypsy and her micro deletion. You can be incredibly sexual and very sexually charged as an individual in general. It's a known it's known. It's if she can manipulate the whole world into believing her story, and Defense did a really fucking good job. Really good job. They far excelled to everything. How much do you think that she could influence somebody in committing the same atrocity that she'd committed? Should a person that manipulated somebody into killing somebody be allowed to monetize off this, to gain monetary gain? No. Should she have disappeared? Yes. She should have got out of jail, or she should have just went out of jail silently, not pushed herself the way she was to make a significant amount of money off the crime that she committed. Even if she did not put any even if she did not put the knife into Dee Dee herself, she done everything to make it happen. Everything to make it happen. She is an accessory to the crime. She's been charged for something much more than second degree murder. The plea deal should never have happened. But again, like I said, it was a political play. It's all got to do with politics. It had got nothing to do with an actual victim at all. And people need to start remembering the victim in all of this is the one that got murdered. And the one that was murdered was Claudine Dee Dee Blanchard. Her crime was loving her daughter too much and defrauding and scamming people. That was her crime. She should never have been murdered over that. Ever. For anybody that is still unsure and that is still sitting on the fence, I'd just like to remind everybody what I said to start with. I was a Gypsy Rose Blanchard's supporter when she was in jail. I believed the lies. I was manipulated into believing the lies like so many people were. I believed the act. I, for the longest time, thought that Dee Dee deserved it because this was a child abuse case. If I can see through it after being fully supportive on her being out of jail, etc., I just implore people to have a look through what's there. Look through the FOIAs. Watch the videos. You might need a bit of therapy after watching some of the videos, to be fair, because they are quite graphic. It is quite disturbing. It is absolutely horrible and horrific. And just watch them. Just watch it all. Go away from all the go away from all the Gypsy stands and go to the evidence. There's more videos coming from Into the Weed podcast for straight away content and from Becca scripts. There's also content coming from Ashley, Baby and Aubrey, to name but just a few. I implore you and I beg you, if you still believe that Dee Dee is the monster that she was portrayed to be, please look through the evidence that's there. The evidence is glaring. It is basically in your face. And a lot of it's always been there for the whole world to see. And from there, I'm going to say farewell. Please, like I said, do go onto Into the Weeds podcast, go to Becca Scoops, go to Ashley Baby, who is actually on here, as well as YouTube, and go to Audrey, who is here and on YouTube as well. Watch them. The money's been paid already. All it's out there. There's more to come. If you're on the fence or still unsure, or actually still believe Gypsy, follow the evidence. Don't follow what she has put out, because remember, somebody that commits an act like this is never going to tell you the full truth. A murderer is never going to tell you why he really actually did something. Because why should they? They don't care. All they care about is manipulation tactics. Thank you for anybody that's been here this evening. Thank you so much for the taps. It's very much appreciated. I will be back tomorrow discussing, I'm not too sure what, but then on Saturday it'll be nice fun live. Okay, so take care of you everybody. I will see you on the mean streets of TikTok, and I'll bid you all a good night.